I get out of the car and my eyes wandered every corner of this house in front of me. Suddenly, I start looking for the window. There are rows of windows to this two-story house, but I am looking for a particular one, the one I escaped through. There, there I spot it, with stained broken glass and hinges eaten away by the rust. It has been abandoned for almost 5 years, and they decide to bring it down to open up for the corporate world. How long has it been? 26? 27 years? The last time I ever saw this house. I walked through the side path and opened the squeaky gate. The garden has been destroyed completely, either by the wind or by trespassers. The pots are broken and pieces lie everywhere. My mother took super extra care to build this beautiful garden. Memories. Whenever they fought, I used to come out here and lie on this soft bed of grass and gaze into the sky. I was maybe 15 years old, growing kid. It was tough back then. I slowly walked towards the main door. With one pull of the handle, I let my past back in me. I still remember, or so as I remember, when entering the room. The first one being a small receptionist for handing out keys to the rooms. Our house was a makeshift hotel with few rooms to spare and to make extra cash. We started the room service business. I stood behind that orange counter as my mother noted down the necessary information. I handed them the keys with my little palm. My dad used to carry their luggages, fix broken things, doing the man stuff. This happiness only lasted for few years. I wish it stayed that way. Looking at my mom and dad smile every time I entered my room. My memory started to rewind. I had this small music box presented by my dad on my 12th birthday. It had this sweet music that I played every night before I go to sleep. The walls had faded away. They have cracked and had patches everywhere. The colors had completely gone. It was me and my dad who painted this room. We painted it with sky blue because that was my favorite color. He promised me he would buy me a study desk that year, and my wish came true. I used to do all my work on that table. I fixed my first broken wall clock, wrote my first journal, and drew my first drawing on that desk. Now it's just a dust. Both my parents used to teach me and help me with the homeworks. My dad didn't force me to study and used to push me out to play. On the other hand, my mom used to get angry. To calm her down, he would hug and kiss her, while I ran outside with my bat and ball. As I remembered this, a tear ran down my cheek. The dining room hasn't changed at all. The small round table remained intact and the chairs were scattered around. On the table there were food wrappings, plates, and leftover. Glad this house sheltered homeless people for past 5 years. Then as I turned and looked at the pinning board where we clipped important things and course to be completed, there, in the center, a piece of newspaper cutting had pinned and is still intact. This piece of paper, or rather the writings on it, changed our whole life from that point. There in the headlines written in bold letters, sexual misconduct by James on his customer. Will the hotel survive? James James was my father. It was a false allegation put on my father. She pressed charges against him because he didn't agree to marry her. In the past, they used to be lovers and were broken up. After he married my mother, he had forgotten about her until this bitch returned. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. From that day on, we didn't have customers. Not many though. Even if there would be people, the husbands would keep their wives away from my father and ask my mother if the locks worked properly. They spit upon him, they looked at him as a rapist. This hurt me, and the business went down. We closed for outsiders. With no job, my father turned to this devil like creature, slowly, day by day. Once respected by everyone, became a nobody. Every day he used to drink, come home, and fight with my mom. A friend became an enemy to me. He started scolding me and beating me if I didn't obey him. He used to take out his belt and whip me while my mother begged him to stop. The fluttering of the newspaper brought back my senses. It's funny how the one thing that brought us trauma stayed intact, while others, which gave happiness, turned into ashes. Finally, with a loud heartbeat, I entered one room which I never intended to, my parents' room. This was the place where everything finally came down. This room was filled with many photos of me, father, and my mom. Now only one was left. There it sat on the wall, almost falling off. I unhooked it and took hold of it. My hands ran on the frame. She was wearing the same red dress in her final moments. My dad had presented her on the wedding anniversary. I still remember my dad arguing with my mom one day in this very same room. I was watching TV upstairs. Argument got louder and louder, and I raised the volume, but still did not help me from not hearing the hatredness. Then there was a gunshot and something falling on the floor. It was loud and it rang in my ears. I was scared and feared the next target would be me. I opened the window, climbed down the roof, and started running, never looking back, crying, wailing, and saying, I'm sorry. My father had shot my mother directly to her heart. She didn't survive. After that incident, he tried to contact me from prison several times, but I didn't respond. Last year, he died of heart attack with my mom's photo in his pocket and a letter addressed to me. He had written, I hope you forgive me for being the worst person to you and to your mother. Even if you don't, I always love you and keep both of you in my heart who were there for me for the most part of my life, in sorrows and happiness. I never intended to hurt her. She was the only person I ever loved. Forgive me, I was never there while you were growing up. Your loving father. I placed the photo frame in the back seat, looked at the house one last time, and bidded goodbye to the place where I grew up, to the place where I had the happiest memories that I wouldn't forget, and to the place where I had haunting memories that I can't forget.